Ladies and gentlemen, life is a journey filled with challenges, obstacles, and moments of uncertainty. At times we may feel overwhelmed, unable to see a way forward. But there is a truth that transcends human understanding. God is fighting your battles, orchestrating events in your favor, and making a way where none seems to exist. Consider the moments in life when you faced adversity, yet somehow things worked out beyond your expectations. This is not mere coincidence, it is divine orchestration. The unseen hand of God moves beyond human limitations, shifting situations, opening doors, and ensuring that his plan prevails. So I urge you today, do not be discouraged by what you see or what you do not see. Stand firm, knowing that God is in control. Your battle is already being fought. Your way is already being made. Your breakthrough is not a matter of if, but when. Keep the faith, walk with confidence, and trust the one who never fails. Life is a continuous journey filled with both triumphs and trials. At times we encounter challenges that seem insurmountable, situations where every effort appears futile, and the odds seem stacked against us. In these moments of uncertainty, we may question how we will overcome, how things will work out, or if there is a way forward at all. However, there is a fundamental truth that we must always remember. God is actively fighting our battles, often in ways we cannot see or comprehend. His divine intervention is not dependent on our understanding, but rather on his wisdom and perfect timing. When we speak of God fighting our battles, we are not referring to a passive form of help, but rather an active, strategic, and purposeful movement in our lives. The Bible is filled with examples of individuals and nations who faced overwhelming adversity, only to witness God's hand turn the tide in their favor. A powerful example is the story of the Israelites at the Red Sea. Trapped between the advancing Egyptian army and an impassable body of water, their situation seemed hopeless. Fear gripped them as they questioned why they had been led to such a dire predicament. Yet, at that very moment, when there was no logical escape, God intervened. He parted the sea, creating a path where none existed. What seemed impossible in human terms was made possible through divine intervention. This same principle applies to our daily lives. There are battles we face, some external such as financial struggles, health issues, and relationship difficulties, and some internal like doubt, fear, and anxiety. Many times we may not even realize the extent to which God is working on our behalf. We might not see the obstacles he is removing, the doors he is opening, or the enemies he is defeating in the background. Our human perspective is limited, but God's perspective encompasses the entire picture. He sees the dangers ahead and redirects our steps, even when we do not understand why certain things happen the way they do. One of the greatest challenges in recognizing divine intervention is our tendency to rely solely on what we can see and control. Human nature often pushes us to seek immediate solution, to fix things on our own, and to become anxious when answers do not come quickly. However, faith requires trust in the unseen. It requires us to believe that even when nothing seems to be changing, God is still at work. The battle is not ours to fight alone. He is fighting for us. In practical terms, divine intervention does not always come in the form of miraculous dramatic events. Sometimes it is the small, seemingly insignificant moments that reveal God's hand in our lives. A person showing up at the right time with the exact words of encouragement we need, an unexpected opportunity that aligns perfectly with our needs, closed door that later proves to be a blessing. These are all ways in which God intervenes. His methods may not always align with our expectations, but they are always in our best interest. There is also an important lesson in patience when it comes to God's intervention. Often, we desire immediate results and become discouraged when things do not change instantly. However, God's timing is different from ours. Just because we do not see movement does not mean that he is not working. Just as a seed grows beneath the soil before breaking through the surface, many of God's interventions happen beneath the surface of our lives before we see their full effect. The key to navigating life's battles with faith is to shift our perspective. Instead of focusing solely on the difficulty of our circumstances, we must focus on the certainty of God's power. Instead of allowing fear to dictate our responses, we must trust that God is in control. Instead of carrying the weight of every challenge on our own shoulders, we must surrender them to the one who has already promised to fight for us. When we embrace this truth, we begin to experience peace even in the midst of difficulties. We no longer live in fear of the unknown because we understand that God is ahead of us, clearing the way. We stop relying on our limited strength because we recognize that his strength is more than enough. We shift from a mindset of defeat to a mindset of victory, knowing that no battle we face is greater than the power of God working on our behalf. So, when life presents you with challenges that seem too great to handle, remember this: you are not fighting alone. God is standing before you, behind you, and beside you. He is making a way where there seems to be no way. Even when you cannot see it, even when you do not understand it, he is working. Trust in his divine intervention, for he has already secured the victory. In life, we often measure success and progress based on our own efforts, intelligence, and connections. While hard work and dedication are important, there is another force at work that transcends human ability: God's favor. Divine favor is not something we earn through merit or status. Rather, it is a supernatural arrangement of events that work in our favor, even when we do not expect or deserve it. Many times we look at life through a transactional lens, believing that we must perform perfectly to receive blessings. However, God's favor operates differently. It is an extension of his grace, given freely to those who trust in him. This favor does not always follow the logic of the world. In fact, it often defies human understanding. There are moments when we receive opportunities we never applied for, doors open that we never knocked on, and obstacles are removed without our intervention. This is not luck or coincidence. It is divine alignment. One of the most remarkable aspects of God's favor is how it positions us for success despite opposition. When we read the story of Joseph in the Bible, we see a young man betrayed by his own brothers, sold into slavery, and imprisoned for a crime he did not commit. By all logical standards, Joseph's life should have been a failure. But even in the darkest moments, God's favor was upon him. In Potiphar's house, he was promoted. In prison, he found favor with the warden. And in a single day, he was elevated from prisoner to ruler of Egypt, second only to Pharaoh. This transformation did not happen by chance. It was the result of divine favor at work behind the scenes. The same principle applies to our lives today. There will be moments when circumstances seem to be working against us. People may overlook us, setbacks may arise, and challenges may appear insurmountable. But when God's favor is upon us, none of these obstacles can prevent his plan from unfolding. Favor does not mean we will not face trials. Rather, it means that even in the midst of adversity, we will rise above. God's favor can manifest in various ways. Sometimes it comes in the form of protection, shielding us from harm, redirecting us away from danger, or preventing us from making decisions that would lead to destruction. Other times it appears as an unexpected breakthrough, receiving a promotion we never applied for, finding financial provision in difficult times, or being placed in the right situation at the perfect moment. Favor can also be seen in relationships, divinely connecting us with the right people who will support, guide, and uplift us. However, one of the greatest challenges in recognizing favor is that it does not always look the way we expect. Sometimes what seems like a setback is actually a setup for something greater. A closed door may feel like rejection, but it could be God's way of redirecting us towards something better. A delay may feel frustrating, but it could be part of His plan to align circumstances in our favor. What appears to be a loss could ultimately lead to a greater gain. Faith plays a crucial role in experiencing divine favor. When we trust that God is working behind the scenes, we develop a mindset of expectation rather than frustration. Instead of dwelling on what is going wrong, we focus on what God is preparing. This perspective shift allows us to walk with confidence, knowing that favor is not based on external circumstances, but on divine orchestration. It is also important to note that favor is not about selfish gain. God blesses us so that we can be a blessing to others. When Joseph became a ruler in Egypt, his position was not just for his benefit. It was to save his family and an entire nation from famine. Likewise, when we receive favor, it is not just for personal advancement, but to make a positive impact on those around us. So, how do we position ourselves for divine favor? It starts with trust and obedience. When we align our lives with God's will, remain faithful in small things, and maintain an attitude of gratitude, we create an environment where favor can flow. We must also learn to recognize favor, even in unexpected places. Not every blessing comes wrapped in obvious packaging. Sometimes what appears to be a difficulty is actually the foundation for a breakthrough. In the end, favor is not about luck or chance. It is about God's divine hand arranging things in ways beyond our understanding. When we walk in faith, trust in His plan, and stay obedient to His calling, we will find that doors open, opportunities arise, and challenges turn into stepping stones. His favor surrounds us like a shield, ensuring that what is meant for us will always find us, regardless of opposition, timing, or circumstances. Life is filled with moments where we stand at a crossroads, uncertain of which direction to take. There are times when no clear solution presents itself, when every path seems blocked, and when the weight of uncertainty feels overwhelming. In these moments, human logic tells us to panic, to question, or even to give up. However, faith teaches us something entirely different. It tells us to trust, to believe, and to move forward even when we cannot see the way. Faith in the unseen path is one of the most challenging yet rewarding aspects of our spiritual journey. It requires us to let go of our need for control and trust that God is working behind the scenes, guiding us even when the road ahead appears invisible. This kind of faith is not based on emotions or circumstances. Rather, it is rooted in the belief that God's promises are true, His plans are good, and His ways are higher than our own. One of the greatest examples of faith in an unseen path is found in the story of Abraham. God called him to leave his homeland, his family, and everything familiar to go to a place that had not yet been revealed. Abraham was not given a roadmap, a timeline, or a list of guarantees, only a promise that God would lead him. From a human perspective, this instruction seemed risky, even unreasonable. Yet Abraham obeyed, walking in faith despite not knowing the destination. His willingness to trust God led him to become the father of many nations, fulfilling a promise that once seemed impossible. In our own lives, faith in the unseen path often means moving forward without having all the answers. It means applying for a job without knowing if we will get it, starting a new chapter in life without seeing the full picture, or stepping out of our comfort zones without immediate assurance of success. It requires us to trust that just because we do not see the way does not mean there is no way. God is always making a path, even when it is hidden from our view. One of the greatest struggles in walking by faith is the desire for certainty. As human beings, we prefer to have a plan, a clear direction, and visible proof before taking action. However, faith operates differently. It asks us to move forward first and trust that clarity will come in due time. This is why faith is often described as a journey rather than a single step. We may not see the full path ahead, but as we take one step at a time, the way becomes clearer. There is a beautiful lesson in nature that illustrates this truth. Imagine driving down a long, dark road at night. The headlights of a car do not illuminate the entire journey. They only reveal a short distance ahead. Yet as the driver moves forward, more of the road is gradually revealed. This is how faith works. God may not show us the entire plan at once, but He provides enough light for the next step. As we continue to trust Him, the path unfolds before us. Many people struggle with doubt when they do not immediately see progress. They wonder if God is truly leading them or if they have been forgotten. But faith is not about immediate results. It is about unwavering trust in the process. Even when progress is invisible, even when prayers seem unanswered, God is still at work. Some of the most significant breakthroughs happen behind the scenes, beyond our natural sight. Faith in the unseen path also requires patience. In a world that values instant gratification, waiting can be difficult. However, God's timing is always perfect. There are seasons when we feel stuck as though nothing is changing, but these seasons are often times of preparation. Just as a seed remains buried before it sprouts, God is often working beneath the surface of our lives before we see visible results. Another key aspect of faith is obedience. When God instructs us to move, we must be willing to step forward, even when it feels uncomfortable. Delayed obedience can often lead to missed opportunities. Many times, the greatest blessings are on the other side of uncertainty. When Peter saw Jesus walking on water, he was called to step out of the boat. Logic told him that walking on water was impossible, but faith told him otherwise. The moment he obeyed, he experienced the miraculous. However, the moment he focused on the waves instead of Jesus, he began to sink. This story teaches us that faith requires focus. When we fix our eyes on God rather than the obstacles, we are able to walk through even the most impossible situation. Faith in the unseen path is not about having all the answers. It is about trusting the one who does. It is about believing that even when life is unclear, God is still in control. It is about surrendering our fear, our doubt, and our need for certainty, knowing that we are being led by a God who never fails. The path ahead may not always be visible, but the one who leads us is faithful. When we walk by faith and not by sight, we step into a life filled with purpose, divine alignment, and the assurance that even when we cannot see the way, God is already making it. Patience and trust are two of the most challenging yet essential aspects of faith. In a world that values instant gratification, waiting can feel frustrating, even discouraging. We want immediate answers, quick solutions, and visible progress. However, God often operates differently. His timing is not based on human urgency, but on divine wisdom. He sees the full picture, while we see only a small portion. Learning to trust His process, even when we do not understand it, is key to experiencing His best for our lives. Patience is not passive. It is an active expression of faith. It is the ability to remain steadfast in belief, even when circumstances suggest otherwise. When things do not happen according to our schedule, it is easy to feel abandoned or forgotten. But delays are not denials. Often, what seems like a delay is actually preparation. God uses waiting seasons to shape our character, strengthen our faith, and position us for what is ahead. Consider the story of David. He was anointed as king while he was still a young shepherd, yet he did not immediately take the throne. Instead, he went through years of challenges, facing opposition, living in hiding, and enduring trials that tested his faith. It would have been easy for David to question why he had to wait so long when he already knew God's plan for his life. But God was preparing him. Every battle he faced, every hardship he endured, made him into the leader he was destined to become. If David had been crowned immediately, he might not have been ready for the responsibility. His season of waiting was not wasted. It was necessary. This same principle applies to our lives. Sometimes we pray for a breakthrough, a promotion, or a new opportunity, and it does not come as quickly as we hoped. We may wonder why others seem to move ahead while we remain stuck. But God is not delaying us to punish us. He is positioning us for something greater. What we perceive as a setback is often a setup for a bigger blessing. The doors that remain closed now may be protecting us from something we are not yet ready for. Trusting God's timing requires surrender. It means acknowledging that His ways are higher than ours and that His plan is always for our good. The challenge is that trust often requires walking in the unknown. We like to have control over our future, but true faith means letting go and believing that God is leading us, even when the path is unclear. A powerful example of trust is seen in the life of Joseph. He had dreams of greatness, but his journey was anything but easy. He was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and imprisoned. From a human perspective, his situation seemed hopeless. Yet, through every challenge, Joseph remained faithful. He trusted that God was in control, even when his circumstances did not reflect it. In the end, he was elevated to a position of power, and what was meant to harm him was turned into a blessing, not just for himself, but for an entire nation. One of the greatest obstacles to patience and trust is fear. When we do not see immediate results, fear tells us that things will never change. It whispers doubts, making us question whether God has forgotten us. But fear is the enemy of faith. The antidote to fear is remembering God's faithfulness in the past. If He has provided before, He will do it again. If He has led us through difficulties before, He will lead us through the current situation. Trusting Him means believing in His faithfulness, even when we do not see immediate evidence. Another important aspect of patience is learning to wait with the right attitude. It is easy to become frustrated, bitter, or discouraged when things do not happen on our timeline. But how we wait matters. Complaining and doubting prolong the process, while gratitude and faith accelerate our growth. When we trust God's timing, we can have peace even in uncertainty. We do not have to live in frustration because we know that He is working things out for our good. Sometimes patience requires us to take small steps of obedience while we wait. Just because we do not see the full picture does not mean we should do nothing. God often requires us to move in faith before He reveals the next step. When the Israelites stood before the Jordan River, they had to step into the water before it parted. Their act of faith activated God's power. In the same way, our willingness to trust and obey, even when we do not see the full plan, positions us for His blessings. The power of patience and trust lies in the ability to rest in God's promises. It is the confidence that He is working all things together for our good, even when we cannot see how. It is the assurance that His delays are not denials, but divine preparation. When we embrace this truth, we no longer live in frustration or fear. Instead, we walk in peace, knowing that what is meant for us will come in God's perfect time. So when you find yourself in a waiting season, do not lose heart. Do not allow impatience to lead you into doubt. Stand firm in faith, trusting that God is working behind the scenes. The battle is already being fought on your behalf. The way is already being made. What seems impossible now will soon become a testimony of His faithfulness. Keep trusting, keep believing, and know that His timing is always right. Life is a journey filled with challenges, uncertainties, and moments where the way forward seems impossible. Yet, in the midst of every battle, every obstacle, and every delay, we must remember that God is fighting for us, arranging things in our favor, and making a way even when we cannot see it. His presence goes before us, His favor surrounds us, and His timing is always perfect. We must recognize that battles are not always won by our strength, but by God's divine power. When we place our trust in him, we no longer fight alone. Every setback, every closed door, and every difficulty is not meant to defeat us, but to position us for something greater. His favor is not bound by human understanding. It is a supernatural force that aligns circumstances beyond what we can see. Walking in faith requires us to move forward even when the path is unclear. Like Abraham, Joseph, David, and countless others, we must trust that God's promises will come to pass in his perfect time. Delays are not denials. They are often seasons of preparation. The waiting may feel long, but when we trust in his process, we will find that every moment of patience leads us closer to the blessings he has prepared. So, as you face the battles of life, remember this: God is not distant. He is actively working, guiding, and opening doors that no one can shut. Do not be discouraged by what you do not see. Have faith in what God is doing behind the scenes. Keep believing, keep trusting, and walk with confidence, knowing that your victory has already been secured. The way is being made, the breakthrough is coming, and the best is yet to come. Stay in faith, and you will see his hand move in ways beyond anything you could have imagined.